We've talked a lot on this show about the impact the kids have had on the workplace.
Yeah, mostly negative.
But we haven't ever directly attacked the question, are millennials a net positive on the workplace? Said differently,
absolutely not.
Your office better with millennials in it? That's the topic for episode 47.
Absolutely unnecessary topic.
For business?
No.
Welcome to Counter Mentor Leadership.
Hi, I'm Kelly Riggs. This podcast is about leadership, but not just any kind of leadership. Counter-mentor leadership, which is our approach to dealing with the chaotic four-generation workplace. It's leadership that works, not theory or hypothetical models. That's the challenge. The workplace has changed dramatically, but the way managers lead has not. I'm Robby Riggs. The problem is ineffective leaders. Research shows that as few as 1 in 7 leaders are effective. The purpose of this show is to make sure you're not part of the 86% of leaders who are failing. In a sarcastic kind of way, of course. Welcome to the podcast. By the way, if you'd like to read our book, Counter Mentor Leadership, How to Unlock the Potential of the Four-Generation Workplace, we'll tell you how to get a free hardcover copy at the end of the podcast.
Hey, welcome back. It's the Counter Mentor Leadership Podcast, episode number 47. Millennials are good for business? What a dumb topic. Who brought this up? Anyway, that's what we're going to do. Hey, thanks for joining us. Countermentors.com. You can find video versions of these podcasts. Of course, we're on iTunes. We're on Stitcher, all those places. Follow me online at Kelly Riggs on Twitter, at Robby Riggs. Kind of a waste of time, but go ahead and add him to your mix. Hey, this is such an interesting topic this week. It's our 47th show, and I can't believe we waited this long to find out the obvious. We're going to talk about whether or not millennials are good for business. Okay, to be completely fair, there was an article that we came across, actually a sort of a research article, I hate to admit it, but there was a thing done by Gallup here recently. What millennials want is good for business. And I mean,
this is Pops. I gotta jump right in because I'm letting you have your fun, and I'm biting my tongue, bleeding over here. I'm biting so hard. And the reality is, this is done by Gallup. This isn't an Inc. article. This isn't a Fortune article. This is Gallup. This is our friends at Gallup who do a ton of great research. State of the American Workplace. They are great research-based organization, and yes, they think they have proven analytically, which we're going to get into, that millennials are in fact saving the workplace. You're welcome.
Okay. So, it sounds like the gloves are coming off in this episode. So let's just go ahead and take them off right now. Because here's the thing. So, for example, they say, the cupcakes, they really care about purpose. They don't just work for a paycheck. They need purpose. Yeah, of course they do. Work must have meaning. Their compensation is important and must be fair, but they're motivated more by mission and purpose. Okay, so then it drops down and says, well, if you look at the engagement levels of millennials, if you doubled that engagement by impacting purpose, then you would make so much more money and be this much safer and all that. But hey, I got a clue for you. If you doubled anybody's engagement, it would dramatically improve profitability, productivity, and all that jazz. So.
Oh, okay. Hold on, Mr.
Waste.
Data, Mr. Details. Like, don't gloss over things. You've glossed over so much here. So I'm going to play the role of
millennials feel more special, then you'll be better for us.
The premise of this article, it starts like this, quote, as millennials age and gain positions of greater authority, they'll bring differences to the C-suite with them. That will change business itself. Is that a good thing? To be frank, yes, because millennials have different core values, needs, and wants than other generations. That's what it's saying. As we come into key leadership roles, we will bring those things that we are naturally inclined towards, and we will make a better workplace.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me take a little different perspective here, okay? First off, millennials are already, 40-some-odd% of the workplace. They're the largest group in the workplace already. Boomers are leaving en masse because you can't stand it.
No, you're no. Hold, stop. Hold on. I'm stopping you right there. That's not true. You aren't leaving. You're working longer. AARP every year tells us that you guys won't freaking retire.
Yeah, we're working longer, as we've mentioned 1,000 times on this show, because we got to pay for you living with us, okay? No. Okay. Hang on a second. Retirement age is being pushed out. That does not negate the fact that
I don't lie.
Retiring in mass. They still are.
It's also true. Also true.
All right. So the reason we're, so already millennials are the largest group. They're going to continue to be the largest group. You know what the reality is, Robbie? This is a fait accompli. It doesn't matter. You're going to have more and more millennials in the workplace. I mean, let's go look at another article that we looked at that talked about how bad.
Accompli? Are you off your meds? A fait accompli?
Well, you've been using a lot of college words recently. I felt like I had to keep up. Now, you're just irritated because you don't know what that word means.
I'm quickly Googling it. So, but I don't want to lose the point here, though. I don't want to lose the point. Is that what the article is arguing is that as millennials come into key leadership roles, that's the difference. And we know that millennials are the largest in the workplace. But right now, typically, in your typical Fortune 500 organization, millennials are not in the C-suite. We are just now coming into those key leadership roles. And as you know, attitude reflect leadership, captain. So as millennials come into those workplace, we're going to bring those things we care about, like a purpose, work-life integration, being flexible, having balance, all those things that, matter and drive engagement, which drive profitability. So yes, we will save the workplace, but continue.
We're going to get you Starbucks in the break room too. Do we need to get you some high water pants to wear so you can see your shoes and no socks look? I mean, come on. All right, so let's balance that article.
Don't hate the play, I hate the game.
Let's balance that article against this article. By the way, I'm going to preface it by asking you a question. Are you seeing more millennial managers?
Am I seeing more millennial managers? Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the title of this article is, Are Millennial Managers Hurting Your Company? Well, it turns out, yes, they are. They suck as leaders. So now we don't blame the boomers anymore. Now we blame the millennial managers for making you cupcakes unhappy. I love this. Finally, an episode I can do well in.
No, it's so interesting because all this does is underscore everything we've been saying, which is, guess what? You have to invest in developing leaders. It doesn't matter from what generation. And I think the Gallup article is really what, that really caught our attention because it's not it's sometimes with these articles, and when we look at data and statistics, you can make it say whatever you want. I mean, it's ridiculous. But with this article is really interesting because I think the logic, we both agree, the logic is sound, but it doesn't matter if all the millennial generation does is mirror and parrot what they saw these terrible boomer managers doing, and that's how they learned. And so when they come in to those leadership roles, they continue those bad habits. So, I mean, that's really going to be the crux here. So no matter who's in that manager role, if you don't have a good manager, it doesn't matter. And the point of the research is, as millennials bring in different needs and wants, they will start to make changes. But I mean, Pops, as you and I have talked about so many times, hope is not a strategy. And I don't think we can just rely on, man, when millennials take over Congress, the government's going to be fixed. Like, stop it. Like that's stupid until we learn how to educate.
Let's face it, they probably couldn't make it any worse.
That's
okay.
I say that.
It's a really interesting point because here's how the Gallup article started. By the way, written by Jennifer Robison. What Millennials Want is Good for Your Business, published on March 22, 2019. So we want to give proper attribution there. But it says,
absolutely. Jump on our website. We'll have the reference.
We'll have the link to it. Absolutely. Gallup's extensive workplace research shows that millennials and their elders are more alike than they are different. Interesting. We agree with that, by the way. But where they're different, they're very different. As millennials age and gain positions of greater authority, they'll bring differences to the C-suite with them. That will change business itself. Is that a good thing? To be frank, they say yes. But here's the interesting piece for me is every generation is different. Every generation has been different. Every generation older than the new one has looked at the new one and said, oh my gosh, what has happened to the world? It really is more a function of the adaptability of leadership because, of course, millennials are going to bring different values and ideals and all that kind of thing. The real question is, will leaders look at it and say those infamous words, that's not the way we do it, or we've always done it this way? or are they actually going to adapt and try to take the talent that they're given and do something with it? And that's our mission.
I think, yeah.
By the way, that's our mission, Robby. Do you feel more engaged knowing that we have a mission to change the workplace for millennials? Does that engage you more?
I despise and hate you equally, no matter what. I don't understand. I don't need a mission for.
Bad question. Okay, no problem.
Yeah, bad question. All right, yeah. No, I think that what's interesting is further in that second article you mentioned, they reference a study that 44% of millennial managers claim to be, say they're capable or they claim to be a good manager, while those that work for them, only 14% said they actually are. So we're seeing consistent trends that we saw with X and of course we see with baby boomers, where there's this huge disconnect. Some of us would call that cognitive dissonance. I don't have to define that for you. But there's this strong disconnect between what I believe I'm capable of or how I am and what my people see. And all that tells me is that we must continue to invest. So look, do I think fundamentally that as millennials come into positions of power in the workplace and in the world, things will improve? Well, can they get worse than a third disengaged or a third engaged? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I'd like to think they will, because so many of us grew up idolizing entrepreneurial ventures, and we saw what made those great was a sense of purpose, a connection to the mission, a connection to the founder, a community, flexibility, balance, remote work, all those things that we loved and really idolized, and as really made famous by, frankly, the social network. So I think that will influence. And when we come into the C-suite, we're going to go, yeah, you know what? This is stupid that we don't have a remote work policy. Like, what's wrong with us? Or, yeah, you know what? It's stupid that we don't offer volunteer time off. Like, we should do that. So I think that those things will be net positive, but will millennial leaders learn how to be great leaders? Not on accident, not unless we continue to invest and get better at teaching leadership.
Yeah, can you imagine going way back to when like typewriters were introduced and everybody was used to using legal pads and number 2 pencils, and the typewriter sales guy came in, or no, better yet, young employee came in and said, you know, I've been learning on this typewriter, I can really smoke out these letters, and people are like, oh no, that's going to create a lot of noise, and we've never done it that way, and it's a capital investment. Yeah. When I start thinking,
we have this whole team of people that are really good at writing, and they write really fast. So no, we don't need that.
Yeah, these kids, they want to come in and do everything different. So I mean, it really is different. I think that when you look at millennials and you realize that new isn't bad, what I have found personally, and I think you and I have experienced together, is that boomers really tend to fall into 2 big buckets. I mean, the third bucket, if there is one, is not got a lot of people in it. There's either people who look at millennials and go, oh my gosh, what in the world is going wrong? This is a train wreck. And there's people, it's like, you know, these young people, they got great ideas and they're innovative and they're bringing a lot of, I mean, why is there such a wide disparity, you know, polarity between these 2 camps, Robby? And why is there very little in between? I haven't seen it. Maybe.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know. I know we didn't plan on going down this rabbit hole, but let's unpack that a little bit, because is it because is that a personality style thing? Is it I'm more relational and I draw energy and enthusiasm from energy and enthusiasm and youth and vigor, right? We've seen that throughout human history, that the elder draw energy from the youth and vigor of the younger. So is that a personality thing? I mean, that'd be an interesting study. We should, like, I don't know, maybe go out.
I love that. I love that approach. In my experience, I think the behavioral style has a lot to do with it. Why? Because in the DISC personality profile, S's and C's, not big change agents. You know, they really resist change. And a lot of the people that I see are really pro young people, pro get on the bandwagon, let's let these guys do their thing, happen to be more D's and I's. So maybe there is something to that. But, you know, that resistance is a big deal.
Yeah, so I think that's part of it. I think that if my hypothesis says that would probably be part of it. I would also say that it would depend on what industry you grew up in. If you grew up in an industry like professional services, management consulting, IT, areas that forced constant learning, growth, and change, versus say nurse practitioner, accounting, something that is like tried and true. This is how we do it. We've done it the same way forever.
Sure.
I could see how you would resist the youth because it's change and hold on. Whoa, this has worked forever. We've been doing it this way for 100 years. Like, this is how you draw blood. This is how you do a tax return, whatever. So I think my hypothesis is that would have something to do with it, which, by the way, those professions attract a certain personality. So maybe it's not causation, it's correlation, whatever. So I don't know, Pops. That's a great question, because you're right. And I think that we've talked to so many key leaders that are like boomers that are like, I am so excited for the twilight of my career to see what happens, because we're in a time of technological innovation, of rapid change, of opportunity, AI, machine learning, all this cool stuff. Like, I can't wait for this final chapter. And oh, by the way, I have all this great knowledge and experience that I can advise in this process. And then you have the other camp that are like, the world's over. So it is.
Me, I just want to get my money and get out before you guys ruin everything. We're going to take a time out. Hey, 60 seconds. Stay with us. We'll come back on the other side. We'll talk more about the Gallup article and share with you what they found that millennials really want in the workplace, why those things are good for you. Stay with us.
Hey, it's Robby. People often ask us if we work with companies, do we actually train leaders and train management teams, or did we just write a book? Well, of course we do. You can find all the details and more of these podcasts at countermentors.com. Or for more information, you can send a message to kr@countermentors.com.
Hey, welcome back. Counter Mentor Leadership, episode 47. Pops, I can't believe it's been 47 episodes. Go see our past episodes, by the way. Countermentors.com. All of it's there. It's video archive. See videos of us speaking. Buy our book. If you haven't bought a book yet, what's wrong? Go buy it. It's awesome.
By the way, gold medal winner, just in case.
That's what I was going to say. Not a big deal. Want to go.
Hey, by the way, 46 episodes. I went back and checked. I had Deloitte & Touche actually run the episodes and take score. We are tied 23-23, and I'm winning this episode, so I think I'll be ahead after this episode.
Yeah, we're definitely the judges must be from Oklahoma and old, because that's the only way that you could be winning this episode. Okay.
So Oklahoma and old. Yeah, Oklahoma wasn't enough.
That's right. So jumping back to the article, really there's 6 key things that Gallup pulled up. We talked about number 1, they don't just work for a paycheck, they want a purpose. And what that means is, as leaders come into the workplace, there'll be a stronger reason behind that. Hopefully that really proliferates through the organization and makes them better places to work, drives engagement, which drives productivity, which is huge. Number 2, Pops, millennials are not pursuing job satisfaction. They are pursuing development, professional and personal development. Do you think that will equal better leaders in the workplace in the future?
Well, I don't know. I don't think it'll equal better leaders, but I think that better leaders will grasp onto this and say, finally, I have a group of people whose one of their driving motivations is to improve and to professionally develop their skills and, a whole lot of things, by the way, including something we talk a lot about, and that's emotional intelligence. I have always said, long before any of this came out, that one of the biggest drivers of engagement is career path, career development. When I know that my boss cares about me and my development, it changes the game in terms of, we used to just call it loyalty. Now the big word obviously is engagement, which is more than loyalty, obviously, but it has a lot to do with it. But if I go to work for somebody and it's here's your cubicle, here's your computer, do your work, heads down. When you're done, tell me and I'll send you a new project, and you never hear from me. And I really don't care about your professional development. I mean, unfortunately, I had the opportunity to work for 2 guys that the worst thing that was ever said about them is that nobody ever gets better working for them, because however they see you when they hire you, they cannot see anything greater than that. To me, the essence of leadership is to see in people what they can't even see in themselves and help them achieve those things. I think that's huge.
Yeah. So we disagree on this one. I believe that you will see this. You'll see more spending and learning and development organizations. You'll see organizations that care more and invest more in leadership development, which will result better leaders in the future. So that's my
I do agree with that, but I'm talking about the causation side. Do you think that's strictly because millennials are coming into the workplace?
I think it's because we care more about personal professional development than boomers do. Yes.
So you're making it a topic of conversation.
Exactly. When we're in the C-suite.
I go with that. Absolutely. All right.
That's the whole premise of this article, right? Is we enter the C-suite.
Sure.
All right. Number 3, millennials don't want bosses. They want coaches. I think this is directly akin to the last one. I think that will actually create an environment of better learning and development, which will create better leaders. Do you disagree?
No, you know what's interesting about 2 and 3, both of those, is I don't think that's new.
Yeah.
I don't think that's millennials. I think that employees of every stripe and every age have always wanted those things, but we lived in such an autocratic sort of dictatorial micromanagement workplace overall, generally speaking, big bell curve. Now there's just more people saying, you know what, if you don't want to provide those things, I'm out. You know, millennials don't have any function whatsoever leaving, so out they go.
Yeah, so no, I'm with you on that. I think that boomers were beaten down for the first 15 years of their career. So when the tide started to turn, I think there was a little bit of bitterness, frankly. I'm speaking for an entire generation, generalizing entire generation.
I think there's a lot of truth to that, because
they were like, screw that. Like, I didn't get that.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not.
I spent 25 years getting nothing. Now you kids want to come in the third week. You want to have a career development plan. Really? Give me a break. Yeah, I think.
No, I agree. So I think that's real.
Millennials don't want annual performance reviews. Okay, we don't even have to discuss that. We've got like 3 episodes ripping annual performance reviews to shreds. Actually, we'll put one of the links in the show notes so you can go find that. Number 5, millennials don't want to fix their weaknesses. They want to develop their strengths. Now, I got to tell you, this one bothers me a little bit. Okay, I think this is almost a little bit contrived. I think that modern management, after 19, whatever, 30, 40, it's always
Drucker's the one who started here with this. He's one of the
managers have always gone into their annual performance reviews looking for the things that are wrong so they can say, you need to fix this, so we can't give you as much of a bonus or whatever. But I think employees have always wanted to be good at what they do well. It has never been a focus. Again, maybe this is just because all of the research and the millennials are making a big deal out of it. But I mean, to me, this is kind of human nature. Do you disagree with that?
Well, so to answer your question directly, not really. I don't disagree with it. No, but I think it's stupid. I'm sorry. I mean, this to me, and we could do a whole rant. We should do a pod on this. Let's start this. We should do a pod on this topic. Is personal development, should you be focusing on developing your weaknesses or enhancing your strengths? Let's do a pod on that. I think we could go for a
lot of good stuff on that. Absolutely.
But I got to tell you, I think this is the biggest misnomer. I think this is the biggest, most contrived statement that people use as a reason to not get uncomfortable. Well, no, I'm really focusing on developing my strengths. I'm not going to think about my weaknesses. Like, that's such a boomer participation trophy mentality. Like, no.
You're putting that on boomers? Give me a break.
You're dang right I am. Look,
geez.
it is so ridiculous that someone is going to, and again,
you're the guy that's always preaching that millennials don't have psychological immunity. They don't like conflict. They've never had to deal with social rejection. And then so they come in and go, I don't want to work on my weaknesses. It makes me uncomfortable. I need a safe space, for crying out loud. That's not a
I gotta tell you, I think it's great. I think boomers created that environment. I absolutely think they do. And you agree with me. Stop it. No. The point here that drives me crazy is I'm not disagreeing with the research that, first go discover your strengths. I know that it's great to understand what our strengths are so we can leverage them.
Absolutely.
I think it's a fool's errand. I think it is lazy. I think it is undisciplined. I think it is foolish for someone to not identify their weaknesses and work to improve them. Now, should you celebrate your strengths?
Hang on. This just in.
I mean, come on.
Robbie sounds like a boomer. Yes, he does. Go back and re-listen to that rant.
This drives me
boomer rant.
Nuts. This drives me nuts. I
love that.
I hate when people use this kind of research. They turn it on its head and go, see, this is a reason why the fact that I'm not detail oriented, I just shouldn't have to worry about detail. Like, no, there are times that you're gonna have to flex that muscle. And just because you're not good at it doesn't mean you can't get better at it. Anyway, it drives me freaking crazy. Last one.
As well. All right, number 6, the last one. Actually, this is the one I think has the most impact, has the most application of any of these, and that is this. Millennials don't want a job. They want a good job. And listen, how many times have we heard people say, these millennials, they just up and leave their job and they quit and they job hop and they blah, 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 blah. Yeah, guess what? They don't want to just go to work for a paycheck, which was number 1. I think more than they want a purpose, they actually want a good job that challenges them, that allows them to develop their skills and their career. And they want to find purpose, certainly. But I mean, all of 1 through 5 is like encompasses what a good job looks like. I think they could have gone down to this one thing and then said, here's the sub bullets underneath that, right?
That's right. And let's juxtapose that with the boomer generation, which was whatever job you got, you stayed for 35 years. It didn't matter. And this is where millennials are starkly different. And they're saying, no, I want a place where I can be engaged. I want a place where I can do great work. I want a place that allows me flexibility so I can be recharged and refreshed and really add value. I want a place that allows me to have a life outside of these four walls. I mean, this to me is the game changer. And as millennials come into the C-suite, my hope is that we don't just see the train wreck that happened throughout our careers and we go, you know what, we're actually going to do things differently. And guess what? That might mean that the street is going to beat the crap out of us for 2 quarters because we're going to have a dip in earnings, or we're going to invest more on the cost side for our people. And I hope that we have the courage and the gall and the grit and the discipline to do this. And man, I hope it's true. I hope that people really can create the workplace that they want right now in their late 20s and into their 30s, that when they're leading those companies, they actually care about them enough to create those places.
Hey, by the way, before we get away and end up the episode, we would be remiss if we didn't mention yet another article that I thought was really interesting. It talked about why millennials are good for employee well-being. And I wanted to look a little bit at that particular article, which comes to us from Forbes. And you can find all this in the show notes. You can find these links. But they said there are 3 things that are really important to millennials that are really impacting the workplace environment, why these things are good. Again, a flexible work environment, a sense of community, and personal development. Now we talked obviously about personal development. 80% of millennials say an emphasis on personal growth, the most essential quality of a corporate culture. If you're listening to this podcast, you need to take a note, okay? Personal development is just taking the time to find out where people want to go and helping give them line of sight to that. So if that's 80% of the culture, maybe HR should start working on that stuff.
But Pops, hold on. Let's please not let leaders off the hook. Just creating a career path and posting on an intranet and sending it out via email is not going to do this.
I agree. Absolutely.
Engaging with their people. Okay, that's what this is. And yes, we need the organization behind it to support it. But I'm sorry, just publishing that in an employee intranet means crap to me. I want to sit down across my leader walk me through. That's what drives value. This is about leadership.
So some of the stuff that's written, though, by the way, this particular Forbes article written by someone who appears to me to probably be a millennial, and I love sort of the self-serving bias that comes in a lot of these deals. He says, millennials are slowly taking over the workforce for 35%, blah, blah, blah. While it's true that millennials have some negative labels, this idealistic generation may just be the best thing to happen to your employee wellness program. And here's my sort of self-serving sentence. It seems like millennials have greater culture mindfulness and a desire to shape it. Okay, I don't disagree with that, but here's what I can tell you. He's not wrong, but it's not like there's some noble purpose in here. Let's just call it what it is, selfishness. I want what I want. I want it the way I want it. I want to change the culture to accommodate me. So,
yeah, and let's just say it's great that our generation aligns that what we want is good for the greater good. I mean, so that's that. I think that's the point. Is that what the boomer wanted? The boomer generation wanted. Your kind of classical boomer was, I just want a job. And I don't care if it's good for anybody.
Well, it's because we had bills to pay and responsibilities. Jobs were scarce. I mean, we tend to dump on boomers, or millennials tend to dump on boomers like they were a bunch of mindless idiots who just raped and pillaged. Hey, back in the day.
Well, the latter's true, but the former, I don't. I'm with you because they can in the context.
I notice you enjoy the fruits of all of that.
Context they came into was tough from a workplace.
Oh no, I do agree with that.
They got
the sense of community though is really the big one. I mean, we've got something we say a lot to people that leadership is not generational, and generations have nothing to do with it. Leadership is relational. It's about relationships,
right.
And it's about creating that community and that engagement and that belongingness and all of those things. And the reality is a lot of boomer managers have resisted that, but the good news is the more and more that we get data like this, we get research like this, and we have a lot more enlightenment that's being led by people like us who get out in the workplace and say, look, there is a better way to do this. If you would just open your eyes a little bit, right. I think it is going to change. But the overall point of this podcast is that a lot of that change, Robby, is going to be driven by millennials who eventually, even though they're not perceived to be good leaders. Now, that's not shocking to me. I mean, millennials are just becoming leaders, so I wouldn't expect them to be fully grown, fully effective leaders, but eventually they will be.
Yeah, and at the risk of going on a third rant in this podcast, which was not my intent when we started, I think that one thing that's important to think about, we spend a lot of time with organizations and we talk a lot about succession planning and what's next and how is your bench strength and how are you focused on developing the leaders as you boomer of 60, 62, 64, 60, whatever, even late 50s, as you're looking to retire, you're in the twilight of your career, we often get, I don't have anybody ready. And it's almost this like badge of honor. Like I am so like no one's ready, but I am very, very quick to point out that whose fault is that?
Right.
And, we are very quick to be like, these millennials aren't ready. They're not ready to lead. They're not ready to be leaders. Then why don't you get them ready? That's your job, Mr. or Mrs. Leader. It's your job.
That's right.
So you should start intentionally investing in that, helping them identify their areas that they need to improve and invest, job rotations, executive coaches, whatever, true leadership development. And so that you can develop, because guess what? It's succession planning, developing leaders doesn't happen on accident. When they hit their 30 years and have been running a P&L for 10 of those, now all of a sudden they're ready to be a leader. Like that's stupid. That is an old school way of thinking. And by the way, all those people that come into those jobs are not ready to be leaders. They're just functionaries. Like they just happen to be the functional leader of that P&L. That's it. So if you want them to be leaders, invest in them.
Yeah, get them ready to go. Great rant. Hey, by the way, we got to get out of here. That's all the time we've got. It's episode number 47. Millennials are good for business? Okay, yeah, maybe.
Yes.
We'll let you make that decision. But hey, we'll leave you with this. And if you're out riding your bike or working out in the gym and you're listening to this pod on iTunes, by the way, really love for you to leave a review on the show. That's another thing. But here, let me
give you a free book.
If you're a leader and nobody ever gets better while they're working for you, you're not really a leader. In fact, you're a bad leader. That's where we'll leave it. Countermentors.com. That's where you can find all of our past episodes. Follow me at Robby Riggs, at Kelly Riggs, at Robby Riggs, my co-host and co-author of our award-winning book. Maybe you should check it out. By the way, it's available on Audible too. No more excuses. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Counter Mentor Leadership Podcast. If you like the show, you can give Robby a trophy by going to iTunes and posting a review of the show. Reviews help the show get noticed. So if you post a review, send us a note and we'll send you a free autographed hardcover copy of the book. Just make sure you say something nice to build up his little self-esteem. By the way, you can find our book and previous podcasts at countermentors.com. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Opinions expressed by guests may not represent the opinions of the hosts.